Oh, it's Thursday. It's July 7th. It's 2011, and this is day 9 daily number 321. I was very tempted to do that, but I was on Team Liquid about to go live, and I realized that I had this rated as everyone can watch, that this is appropriate for all ages. And now that I've begun the daily, I realize that my door is open. So I gotta go ahead and shut that, because if I don't, there might be a friendly guy named Kevin who comes in and goes, "Hey, you want to go get Del Taco?" I'm like, "Kevin, I'm busy being famous on the internet." So, very exciting news. I am getting picked up right after the Day 9 Daily to go to Ontario, California, where I will be doing the North American Star League cast. That's right, I'll be casting with none other than In Control, Greetorp, Artosis, and my little cuddly frere brother, Tasteless. So tune in. NASL.TV will be there all day long. In other very exciting news, my brain is not functioning anymore, and I had announcements I was going to make, but you know what? Screw it. Let's just talk about Terran vs. Protoss. It's Terran week, is what it is right now. We're going to be looking at the Terran vs. Protoss matchup today. Did Terran vs. Terran yesterday, and Terran vs. Zerg the day before that. And in this daily, we're going to be looking at variations on the same basic structure of build, which is 3 racks, building Marines and Marauders, and a fast double starport for drops. And when I say double starport, I mean a starport with a reactor on it. Variations on 3 racks, an expansion, and a starport with a reactor. And the whole focus is that a lot of times when people think about how am I going to play, they think about, I will refine one build. Or they'll say, I will do tons of crazy variety. What we're going to look at today is that there are many varied ways to accomplish essentially the same thing, and that there's very cool ways, very cool room for play in this simple statement of, I'm going to be going 3 racks and expanding and getting a starport with a reactor. So what this means is that all of a sudden you can say something like, do I want to open up with a really fast expansion and be making largely Marines, or do I want to be doing something like being aggressive early on? No matter what, I'm still going to be doing essentially the same thing. What I don't want you to do is say, oh, I'm going to play Terran vs. Protoss. Should I open Banshee? Should I open Blue Flame Hellion? Am I going Mech? Am I going Medic Marine? You suddenly have almost the same place you're going to end up in, but it's all the sorts of different ways that you can do that. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that. Basically now, I feel like I'm forgetting something. I had it in my head moments ago. Great, let's go ahead and go into the game. Let's look at first an extremely typical way that you will see someone go for this 3 racks play. So we are seeing Dignitas's select in the game, in the top left corner. Bam! Bam! Everything getting turned on. Look at me. Who's on the ball today? Day 9. Kind of. Perhaps. So he selects spawning in the top left corner. Let's take a look at a nice, simple benchmark. We're going to measure everything against this. Select in this game is going to be going for a somewhat of a fast expansion, as you might expect. Nothing too gross out of the ordinary. He's going to be playing against Night End. We're actually not going to look at what Night End is doing as much. We're just going to briefly take a peek at the overarching style and all the fanciness that can occur in there. We see a barracks going down for select. He's building it at the normal time. Skipping gas. Oh. Skipping gas. Going right past our gas. And we're going to see Dr. Select do. The D in this game will be standing for Doctor. He's going to be getting a early expand. And there it is. Here it comes. Bam. You even see the entire ground warp around him as he is in fact going for that orbital command. He's going to be now building a second supply depot. Notice he is cutting Marines. This is very typical. Don't build your early second supply depot. Build yourself a command center first. This is our baseline game. There goes down now a bunker. This is actually important to get down fast because, as you will note, bunkers take 40 seconds, stalkers take 40 seconds. You want to start these at about the same time so you can repel any sort of harassment. Select actually going to do this little bunker thing. This is not going to have any real effect on the build, so we can effectively ignore it. So here comes the first inklings, the first beginnings of this build. We're seeing 2 more barracks get added. We see the expansion come up. And Select, as you would imagine, is going to be going for 3 barracks, a starport with a reactor, and he'll be doing some harassment as he has his expansion up. What we're going to see here is some pretty obvious decision making. Getting these barracks up first so he can get some Marines. Alright, great, great. All sorts of good stuff going on. We're going to see Select make many more SCVs. Yeah, there's some funny monkey business going on here, but no big deal. After Select builds his barracks, shortly thereafter he will be adding on 2 refineries. Great. What are we going to see with that first little bit of gas? You guessed it. Now, a lot of the stuff I'm going to say, or a lot of stuff that I have said, has been throwing it offhand. A lot of it has been, he's building a barracks on 12. He's building a command center early when he can afford it. But I'm going to start naming things, and I want you to listen very carefully to what I say. It's not because there's going to be any tricks, but I want you to remember them. I'm going to say things like he's going to build a tech lab, and I want you to keep that in your head, because we're going to start to see how many ways there are to play around with this seemingly rigid-sounding 3 racks, an expansion, and fast double starport. So we're going to see, okay, here's a round of Marines coming down, and we see a factory getting started first. Alright, great. We see a tech lab going down as well. Select playing his stuff off pretty standardly. This is actually the most normal looking way to do this opening. Notice that the first instance of this, the first instance of gas really being spent on something other than an upgrade and a building is on this Marauder. I also want you to note that this factory is in fact going down before anything else gets built. There's actually ways to just throw down a tech lab right away. There's ways to throw down this tech lab right away and to, you know, do fanciness with that. You know, maybe get some Marauders out, do some early pressure with that. But we're not going to see Select do anything like that. We're going to see him go straight for the starport. Notice how fast of a starport this is. In the meantime, we're seeing a lot of ground units getting built up from Select. He has a fairly defensive structure at his front. And we now see these medevacs popping out. And he's getting all sorts of his goody-good add-ons. And then when these 2 medevacs pop out, now we have the basic structure for the play. Notice also, we're getting concussive shell very, very late. We are getting Marauders very, very late. In the unit counting station, notice we only have 5 Marauders. We have mostly Marines. We actually just got these starports and medevacs up so incredibly quickly. And we're going to use them for drop harass. This is one of the standard hallmark, good, awesome plays that you can do in this matchup. It's just a good way to get a little bit of control. But I'm going to pause right here, and I just want you to examine this structure of how we got here. We went for this factory really fast, and we went for the starport really fast. Then we thought about getting stim. That's when we got that stim upgrade that's no longer here. Then we started to build Marauders. Doesn't seem like that much, but yeah, that's when we're getting the Marauders. And let's actually write a time down for us. Let's write down when these first medevacs ended up popping out, because Select got them out quite quickly. They pop out at 9 minutes and 26 seconds. And as I advance back to where we were before, we're going to see the exact advantage of this small little versatile force that's going to move out. It can just do a lot of harassment around the edges. Come to the night end cam with me. He is going to be on the big defensive for most of this game. He is going to be having to pull back. He's going to have to... Oh, look at all this craziness that's going on. Oh, how tragic. I need to re-expand. I mean, Select is actually just hanging out back here in the corner. In the meantime, Select is getting his extra barracks up. He's getting the chance to start Viking production. He's getting a 3rd expansion command center. He has a Ghost Academy done. All the goodness that Select wants is purchased for him with the time that these medevacs are giving him. So good. This is the most typical way to do this. Occasionally you'll see players throw down their tech lab before the factory. That actually used to be the older way. Now players are generally getting their really fast medevacs, loving that play. They love the amount of control that this can give them. And notice that there's nothing that complicated about what Select is doing. There's nothing particularly complicated about this. This is his wrecking crew. Actually, let me go ahead and go to the gameplay and turn these control groups on. We can see that, yeah, in control group 4... I'm awful. Normal. In Control Group 4, yeah, he has these 2 medevacs. Control Group 1, well, it's just some of the units that really should be inside these medevacs. None of this is even hotkeyed. All that Select is really hotkeyed are his unit-producing structures. I mean, you can see that the amount of focus that Select is giving to areas of the map is not hard by any stretch of the imagination. So for any of you young TvPers who are looking for a basic way to play, oh my god, do this! This is so easy! Right? He's just getting himself his very fast medevacs. He's just running around with the pair of medevacs in one spot. They're not splitting up, nothing difficult in any regard. Just using these to keep him pinned while the Terran gets up all the goody goodness that he wants to get up. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to go ahead and close this game and start to look at a variation on this. A little variation on this. And we want to try to see what differences we can end up seeing. Let me actually I actually closed this replay, so I'm going to speed it back up. I closed the Select game. There's one more thing I wanted to note, which is the upgrade timing. Because, interestingly, it's planted at a time, well, I guess I feel like all Terran players in the Terran vs. Protoss matchup are kind of just like, well, I'll get upgrades at some point because they're important. They're never like a planned component in this build. So I want to come back here and show that when the timing comes in relation to everything else. But while we're waiting for that, I want to note that Fun Day Monday, for Monday, please submit games of you playing Protoss with no pylons constructed in your own base. No pylons in your own base. That is the Fun Day Monday topic for Monday. Yes, I love that idea. It was not my own. It's not my own, I will say. So when we come back here, I want you to note how broke Select is on gas. Look at how look at this broke-ass nerd. Just now getting up his early reactor. And where, I dare say, is the engineering bay? Where is it? Nowhere in sight. There is all that extra goodness going down. Where's the engineering bay? Still don't see an engineering bay. Look at how low he is on gas. Wow! After everything gets started from the 3 racks, starport with reactor, expo mix, after all that's up, then we end up getting an engineering bay. That might seem like it was a lot of work to go through that far, but I want you to just remember that. I want you to store that in your head. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at a game from StarTale's Bomber. This is in the DreamHack tournament. This is in his game against OGS MC, which I actually did a cast of with none other than Diapollo. And in this game, we're going to see something a little different. A couple of little tiny tweaks go on from our good friend StarTale Bomber. It's going to look kind of similar. This is variations on a theme. Because again, I want to illustrate to you, you can do the same basic idea, the 3 racks with the starport and the expansion. You can do that same idea in all your games, but you can do variations on the opening. In this game, we're not going to look at the biggest variation ever. It's going to be ever so slight, just to point out the slight tweaks that you can end up doing to the style of play, because it's very, very potent and effective. And oh, what do you know? We're going to see him build his second supply depot before he ends up getting his expansion. Oh, what a sin he could get this expansion earlier. I frankly don't actually mind that much. This is kind of a hard space to defend anyways. So what are we going to see our good friend Bomber do? Bomber is going to be building 2 barracks and immediately subsequently throwing down 2 early geysers. Now to note, you can actually build the 2 geysers before these 2 barracks and get an ultra fast factory, and you don't really have very much else. You actually end up getting the medevacs right when you have 16 Marines, so you lift them up and then you're just kind of only having those Marines. But still continue to note Bomber delaying the tech lab. We see no tech labs getting added. We have just enough now for a factory that I do believe is planted here. Yep, there it does go down. Nifty, thrifty, fantastic-y. And you're starting to note that, interestingly, here is one deviation that Bomber did. Bomber did not get an early bunker. By saving this 100 minerals on this bunker, he was able to get his gas geysers a little earlier, and he's going to be able to get his starport up a little earlier. 9 minutes and 26 seconds is the time when the medevacs popped out for our good friend Dignitas Select. We're going to just keep that in our brains. Here's the stim going down. Marauder just now getting started. No gas at all has been spent on units at this point in time. None whatsoever. This is the first gas unit. Immediately builds a starport, immediately builds a reactor. This is a little bit cleaner of an execution. But as we keep watching, we're going to note some very funkiness coming on in. Yes, he's building his second bunker. Yes, he's rallying over there to the natural expansion. Still not that many Marauders. And again, we're, in the unit counting station, we're seeing just 2 Marauders and 20 Marines. As a matter of fact, Bomber is making far more Marines than Select is. And Bomber is delaying getting any other add-ons as well. And here come these medevacs. They take 42 seconds to build. We're actually going to see them pop out earlier. Yeah, some units get lost. That's fine. I'm not too overly concerned about that. Alright, cool. So now we have these medevacs popping out. And look, a full 30 seconds before our good friend Select. Streamlining things a little bit more. Not getting any add-ons on these barracks. Remember Select, he was making a tech lab. He was making a reactor at this point in time. Not our good friend Bomber, who is going straight for the big aggression with these medevacs. And here's another variation. The big, clear variation that's going to happen is that we can actually do a lot more harassment with these 2 medevacs. We can actually split our armies up by picking them up into yet more of these medevacs. And suddenly, notice this is very, very key. This is actually super, extremely important. These units don't leave quite yet. It's right when OGS-MC sees the drop, and all these units are known to be pinned back here. And then we're going to see Bomber actually just kind of go straight up aggressive with this. But we're seeing the same basic idea happening back home at the main. We're getting more barracks, we're getting our add-ons, our concussive shell is noticeably late. Engineering bay popping up before everything, and look at this nice little pin. I don't care that this isn't doing any damage. Come look at the units lost with me. This is not even going to change really at all. I don't even think either player's really lost any workers. Wow, 1-to-1 from the 2 players whose names I remembered to reveal. It's the same kind of idea, except instead of it being a little bit more harassment-y in the way that Select's was, where he's trying to drop through a little bit of damage, this is more of just a direct attack, and we're just going to have all our stuff very mobile on the map. Now, sadly, one thing that I don't have a replay for is that at this point in time, what's very, very effective is to split the medevacs into pairs and to move around the edges of the map. Notice that with this decision, you don't ever have to change the ordering that you're doing with your buildings. You never have to change the ordering of the buildings. You can do the exact same ordering 3 games in a row, and in game 1, harass with 2 medevacs. In game 2, harass with 4, split into pairs, and in game 3, just do a direct frontal attack, and you will have 3 very, very different feeling games. My personal preference is to have 4 medevacs split into pairs of 2. If you can control that properly, then you can do a lot of damage. And by a lot of damage, I mean you're almost guaranteed to pick off a few fringe pylons. Coming back to this game, we're seeing, yeah, it's a fairly typical execution. Maybe something a little different in terms of the add-on mix, but still going for this +1 attack upgrade and the like. So now, we've seen 2 games where there's been almost identical opening, but there's been a little bit different of use of those medevacs. If you watch the rest of that game, which you can get from looking at the DreamHack Summer 2011 games, you'll see Bomber moving around without really doing too much drop harass. It's generally straight up direct fights, but let's look at something completely different, interestingly, from the same player. We're now going to be looking at Mouse Sports Mana versus Star Tales Bomber on Metalopolis. And what I want to note is how wildly different this opening is, and how wildly different it feels. So there's the good luck, have fun, the good luck, GG. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to see something that's going to be a different opening, but don't think of it as that different. If you did something like Open Banshee versus opening Blue Flame Hellion, then yes, you would be in a very, very different spot. Because you would have a starport up really fast in one, with Cloak, and in the other one, you'd have this factory that was like occupied for a long time. You couldn't do any add-on building with it. A lot of times the composition of Marines is easier to build when you are going for the Banshee. There's so many big differences going on there. And this is a big mistake that a lot of lower level players will make, because right now we're seeing 2 barracks go down. 2 barracks, and of course we're going to see the reactor go down. People will look at this and say, this is a different opening, or this is a different build, this is a different strategy than what we saw in the last 2 games. It actually isn't. Your strategy, for the most part, is your start to finish game plan and how you're going to be spending resources on things. So, for instance, if you go for a 2 gateway with Sentry Expand versus a 3 gateway with Sentry Expand, there are minor differences, but the overall strategy is the same, that you're building sentries and that you're taking a fast expansion. Maybe one's a little faster. This means definitely the fastest will be the 1 gate Sentry Expand, but they're still the same fundamental underlying idea is there. And this is what's great about this sort of opening, is that if you like being aggressive, you can look at those last games that we saw Select and Bomber do, and you can say something like, nah, I like attacking earlier, I don't like this early expanding business, I want to do something too raxy. But then you might have the same interest in going for some kind of medevac drop play. So let's see how this one ends up panning out and how it ends up flowing back in. There's a tech lab going down. Here are the Marines getting constructed. And what do you know, Bomber immediately going for a bunker at the front. Poor Hasuabs has to chrono boost, pulling probes off. First Marine making his way cross map. Per usual, in this build, you get aggressive very fast, generally right when the first Marauder pops out. You have 5 Marines and 1 Marauder, and you go for it. In this game, we're actually going to see Bomber move out a little earlier, because his opponent expanded a little bit earlier. We're going to see all these Marines kind of hang out, except for these 2 that decide to do their own thing. Nothing too noteworthy going on back home. Perhaps the most noteworthy of which is that Bomber intentionally has 2 in the geyser. Really not going to be spending that much. But hey, look at this. A big ol' early attack, and we even have some SCVs here that we're going to run the risk of losing. But watch the way that Bomber ends up flowing back into this. So at this point, he sees an opportunity. He sees that this expansion is early. He sees that this expansion is going to be a little weak, so he's going to go ahead and just drill in hard. We've seen that, oh wow, it looks like Hasselhoff is actually behind on the worker count because there's been a good amount of workers killed off by Bomber. 7 that were killed were the ones that he brought to the front. And Bomber now is going to end up finally losing everything because Hasselhoff's controlled that quite nicely. So Bomber going to respond by taking himself a command center. Getting his stim up earlier. And anytime you're getting an earlier stim, try to make sure that there is some kind of attack centered around that. If you're getting stim just for defense, I'm not the biggest fan of that. Any amount of gas you spend early needs to be very deliberate and very careful. If you're just like, yeah, I'll get stim early, it's 100 gas, no problem. You either have to really, really know what you're doing, or you're just messing up, right? You could build bunkers for early defense and get something else useful up. You always want to have your gas being spent in some way that allows you to do some sort of good attack later on. Like, you're spending your gas on stim, so you can get your stim and do the push early on. You're spending your gas on the factory, so that way you can get faster medevac and do that attack later on. It all is geared up to an attack. What you don't want to do is say, I'm going to get stim early. Yeah. Maybe I'll attack later. Like, make it line up. It's fine also to say something like, I'm going to get stim early so I can get combat shield early because I'm trying to do an early push with both of them. That's okay. But we're not going to talk about any sort of combat shield pushing. We're still going to be focusing on the faster drop-ish play. Bunker going down. So whenever you do this, try to make sure there's at least some aggression planned. You don't have to attack or commit to an attack with it. But do keep that in mind. There's another barracks going on by Bomber. Notice he's not going for a factory. Now, I'm going to take a little fast quiz from the audience. Why would he not be going for a factory at this point in time? Plenty of reasons. Please say why on earth the factory would be going down earlier on. Yeah. Or why it wouldn't be going down earlier on. Smelly YY is saying that, it's because he lost all his units. That is one of the reasons. Technically, you could make a couple more bunkers for defense, but that's obviously a good reason to catch up. There's a specific reason that I'm looking for. It says he has not enough gas. It's of course tied to it. No money, need more gas, lack of gas. I guess that is accurate, but I'm trying to see. Yeah, I like that answer from Pony Baloney. Yeah, who says he just got stim, so he's investing in infantry. That's actually the big reason that I really like. Often you'll see inconsistencies in terms of upgrades, and definitely try to weed these out in your own play, where you're getting an upgrade that you're kind of getting out of habit. But when you're trying to really dig deep and refine, a lot of times you'll realize, I don't need these upgrades very early, do I? Great example. In the last game, what did Startail Bomber wait until the last second to get? Concussive Shell for his Marauders. He waited so long to get that. He had units in dropship with stim almost at MC's base, and that's when Concussive Shell was just finishing up. That is really smart. By cutting that Concussive Shell, he got the stim earlier, and he got his dropships up way earlier. Brilliant choice to do that. What happens a lot is players will say, yeah, stim is a good upgrade. This is just something that I want. And early on, they'll at some point have 100 minerals and 100 gas and say, oh, cool, I have enough for stim. I'm getting stim. But you just really do not want to do that, because the following inconsistency can happen, where you just get the stim because you're doing that. But hey, I saw Day 9 Daily about dropships. Let me go for a factory now. Then what happens? Your stim finishes, and you don't have any medevacs, and you're not going to attack. And you're sitting there, waiting for your medevacs to finish. You see why that's bad, right? Because you could have either gotten your medevac faster, or you could have been doing something with your stim marines. So, either, in this case, either don't get stim and get a really fast factory, right? Either don't get stim and get a fast factory, or get fast stim and just go with it. Just roll with it and get yourself an early third barracks. Seems clean and easy, right? There's a lot of these that will happen a ton. I think the most notable one that people are still sort of autopiloting to is a lot of Zergs are just always getting Zergling speed before they get a layer. Always. And then all of a sudden one player comes along and gets a layer before Zergling speed, and you're like, well, hey, but you're supposed to... Oh, well, I guess in your build you're not even going to have any Zerglings early on. So, okay, that makes sense, right? You definitely do not want to have these inconsistencies where you just sort of auto-default getting them. Make sure you check those out in your own play, so I don't have to running punch you in the jaw at the North American Star League Finals that I will be at later tonight. Actually, right after this daily. Actually, holy crap, I should probably pack so that way I can be prepared for that. Holy crap. So Bomber not getting a second gas yet. He's going for the tech lab right away. Now, when stim is done, you don't have to commit your units to dying in an attack. That's actually something that I should gripe on a little bit. You can get the stim early on for an attack, but then look at the situation and say, aha, it is correct to pull back. That sounds like it contradicts with what I said earlier, but when we do the following explicit example, notice how incredibly important it is to be willing to pull back, but still be willing to make the attack. Whenever you make any attack in StarCraft 2, you're doing it because you outright kill some strategies. And against the others, maybe you'll do some damage. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have to pull back. But getting stim very, very early on at this timing really messes with a player who's going for very, very, very fast Colossus. I can tell you this straight out of experience. It really messes with him. What if he's not going for fast Colossus? Then I poke in there. I see that he is going for a bunch of zealots, that he's going for some sort of zealot with light speed upgrade, and I can pull back, no problem. I got the stim started at a time where I was never going to know what his strategy was unless I had ESP. And upon revealing that it was a strategy I needed to retreat against, that's fine. I pull back. So, if you're getting the stim, you still do not have to do something like, well, he's he got Zealot with leg speed. I guess I have to commit to an attack. You don't have to do any of that garbage. But again, make sure you have this logical consistency between what upgrades you're getting and what units you're going for. So we're seeing all these things move out. And watch Startail Bomber. Look, here comes Bomber. He's now salvaging all of his bunkers. And here off he goes. And now, what do we see? He's getting a Factoire. Fantastic. We see him getting his refineries up. He's continuing to build out of these. And I'll tell you right now, he's going to go for a reactor starport right after this. And hell, it's the same look that we had before. It's the same look. It doesn't matter that Bomber opened with some crazy bunker rush 2 racks opening. He's still dumping back into the same basic spot. See this one Marine that stemmed and ran forward? It's all the information you need. And what was I saying earlier? Oh yeah, if you go for a fast Colossus, the stem timing works quite well against it. We're going to see some miracle defense by Hasu. But Bomber is absolutely not going to be behind in any regard, right? He's still microing, pulling back, staying outside the front, doing damage to these extra units that are so available. And as we can see, killing off a lot of workers in the process. Yep, getting, he's still a little bit low on SCVs, but that's fine. This attack is very, very difficult for fast Colossus players to deal with. Colossus is going to pop up just in time. But now we can do our smart, usual reads on the situation where we're trying to break in here. I personally, upon cutting down on his units and seeing a Colossus, I will almost always try to get 2 medevacs out and do the drop harass. It's just so good. You buy yourself so much time. Let's see here. Yep, Hasselhoff's going to be moving out for a push. This is actually really dangerous because you can use Colossi really easily in small numbers, such as that one. We are going to see Bomber get Vikings immediately thereafter, and he will have to stay a little bit on the defensive. But if he were not on the defensive, he would easily be able to go for some drop. Look at him cleaning this up. And this is a time when I am just dying to do some drop action. I don't think Bomber's actually going to do it. Yeah, Bomber is actually going to play this off in an intuitive fashion. In the other games, we saw players not get a second starport. We instead saw them get like a Ghost Academy or an Engineering Bay. But Bomber, who opened up aggressive, actually, I'm going to back up to this position right here. Okay, here's a very important thing to note. I've been talking about variations of the early game. Actually, yeah, I've been talking about variations of the early game. Like in this game, we looked at how Bomber opened 2 racks and then expanded. Whereas in the first 2 games, it was expand and then build 3 racks and then go for a very, very, very fast factory after that. But what I want you to note is that if you look at this very moment in time, look at this very moment in time as we're sort of glancing around, right? We see 3 barracks, 4, 5 barracks. We see 2 starports. If someone walked into my room right now, first of all, I'd have to call the police because no one's supposed to be home right now. But second, I'd be able to show that person this state in the game, and that person would be unable to tell me what the opening was. This is what we call a convergence point in StarCraft 2, or in a strategy game. We hit a moment in time where it doesn't matter what came before it. You don't need to know what came before it. You're just at this solid juncture, and then you can branch out however the hell you want. 3 barracks, an expansion, and a starport with reactor. If you are there, it doesn't matter how you opened. You're there. Oh, you see Colossus. So get a second starport and really begin making Vikings. Does it matter if you open 2 racks or early expand? F no. It does not. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing so many variations on this one style, is that it's a very useful convergence point. You can play around in the early game, then hit this juncture, and then play around in the late game. You have this little squeeze tight, nice thing in the center. Very nice little thin waist on your strategy. God, this strategy is a beautiful hourglass figure. And at the center of that hourglass, it's 3 barracks, starport, expo. Now we're going to see Bomber play this off in an intuitive way, and oh my goodness, all our same principles as before are still going to work. Bum-ba-rum-ba-rum, dropping bum-ba-rum. In the select game, it was naked dropships doing their thing. In the second game, it was all the army planted right here trying to get a vulnerable spot. In this game, we're doing kind of a two-pronged attack. Dugan dropping in his main. Get out of there! No! Planting units at the front to be willing to push in at any memento. Many a Viking getting produced, and as you can see, he can just go for a sort of clean, easy kill sequence at the end. Speed, 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 speeding up, speeding up. Here comes the kill sequence, here it comes. I could end here, but I really want to look at this. Destruction, deatheration, and Bomber takes the win. Alright, cool. Now let's look at something that is at the other end of the extreme. First two games, very typical, fast medevac play. This game that we looked at, very fast pressure at the start of the game. In this last game that we're going to look at, well, what time are we at? 7:42? I might look at one more game. In this last game that we're going to look at, which game was it? Ah, there it is. It's one we've looked at before, but it's going to go in the other extreme direction. Here it is. It's Gonzi versus MVP's Genius. It's going to go in the other direction, where it's going to be less about getting a fast factory, right? So, oh man, I paused the replay and then nearly shit my pants because I was like, did my computer freeze? Is it dying? Oh my god, the viewers will be so angry. Oh my god. Gonzi. Here at the start. Advancing through. Alright, let's see what Gonzi does. We are talking all about tech labs and STEM and when upgrades were getting started and when factories were going down. Think about all those elements as we look at this part of the game, right? So, okay, he's building a bunker. He's building 2 more barracks, and now he's building these refineries. Notice that up to this point, this has been the same as in our first 2 games that we looked at. This is the same thing, getting these 2 refineries up, right? Good, good. Good, good. Now watch the way the gas gets spent. The gas almost always reveals purpose. Insta-snap tech lab. Boom! Concussive shell. Boom! Engineering bay. Ba-da-dum, 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 dun-da-da-dum, da-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da. Alright. So notice how much later his medevacs are going to be in this game. Look, we see Stim queued up right after that. We see a really fast infantry +1 weapon going down. Now, what was I stating earlier? I said, have the purpose of these upgrades align with what you want to do. Gonzi went for a fast concussive shell. And what is he doing? He is pushing. When Bomber went for his my whole army's my frickin' medevacs in Game 2, his concussive shell was almost done when his medevacs were getting to that base. Because Bomber's strategy was trying to get medevacs fast and attacking with those. Almost always want to have your upgrades aligning with some purpose of attack. As we can see, the concussive shell aligning with the purpose of this early push. And why is this SCV here? This is the contingency plan, right? This push kills a certain set of strategies. This SCV is here to spot if it's a strategy that we don't kill. Alright, let me actually just follow this army here for a moment. There's stuff going on in production, but we're going to ignore it. Here comes the SCV. Look at what the SCV is going to see. Yep, got a read on that. Pulls right on back. This is what I was talking about in the last game, where I said make sure that you're getting that stim because it has a purpose. Make sure you're doing some sort of attack that is good. This attack from Gonzi, very good because he just finished his concussive shell. He just gets a Marauder out. Going to put a little pressure on with it, but he's going to put pressure on the strategies that he can. He's going to pull back against the rest. Yes! Let's go ahead and come back to the game and look at the buildings going on in the main base. There's the stim going down, and with the next 100 gas, we are going to see our good friend Gonzi plant a factory, as expected. Now, I'm going to note something. If Gonzi doesn't do something when the stim is done, I might get a little concerned. I might say, well, why the hell didn't you get the factory before the stim? You jerk. There's that push we were talking about. Alright, great. He's pulling back. There's his uppy ups going down. He should be investing in a little bit of the geyser. Notice the missile turrets. He's constructing those, again, to deal with that possibility of some kind of crazy, funny monkey business going on with fast DTs. And again, look, we're getting close to the convergence point, but interestingly, we have this little thing snuck in, this little upgrade that we just snuck in there. There's an armory going down as well. And right now, we're at 926. This is when Select got his medevacs out in Game 1. At around 8:45 is when Bomber got his medevacs out in Game 2. In Game 3, we saw Bomber go for some crazy early aggression. He was never going for fast medevacs. In this game, we're getting eventual medevacs, but they're not really fast, so do not confuse them and their functionality with how they worked in the previous game. So there is now a very nice little fancy schmancy +1 upgrade going down. Yes, he's getting himself armor. He's getting the 2-2 upgrades. He's getting the double medevacs out. And again, I want you to note, we're going to see the stim wrap up. I'm actually going to go to the Gonzi cam here for a moment.
Our SCVs are
We're going to see the stim wrap up, and Gonzi is actually going to think about making a push. Actually, there was a moment where he was thinking about making an early push, but he ends up spotting this army advancing towards him. No, yeah, he loads up. He loads up his stim, kind of lines up with that. There are some circumstances in which he can push at the front, but Gonzi at this point is just getting faster combat shield. That's the real action that that early stim is allowing him to do, is the faster combat shield. But notice how this whole thing doesn't really have any drop antics going on in it at all. Gonzi is going to do this incredible defense, partly thanks to the amount of units that he was churning out at the start of the game. Still building medevacs 2 at a time. And upon cleaning this up, I want you to note that Gonzi is still going to rely on the same basic tools of this very fun 3 racks medevac play, per usual. He, like every other player, he's going to be getting barracks 4 and 5. My goodness, does he have fast freaking upgrades. And I have a quiz question for you, ladies and gentlemen. Why 1 medevac? Why 1 medevac? Why 1 medevac? Before we've seen 2, we've seen 4. We generally see pairs of medevacs. I'm going to kind of ignore the fact that there's not that many Marauders in there. And just get all this junk out of my eye. Why the 1 medevac in terms of consistency of ideas? Consistency, something you can talk about. Mobility isn't scouted that much, yet he lost all his units. You don't need to do more harass. Well, there are actually many circumstances in which it's great to go ahead and do a 2 medevac harass right after you've lost a bunch of stuff. People are talking about easy scouting. Let's see. It has to do with the upgrades. Actually, so, wow, people are talking a lot about scouting, his armies and the Marauders, multi-pronged attack. But yeah, why not do a multi-pronged attack with, say, 2 medevacs at the back and 2 somewhere else? Let's see here. So here it is. Loser for higher excess. He has more upgrade. His troops are stronger. That's the key point. That really, this army that Gonzi has is more of a direct attack army. So he wants to keep his army and troops together. You don't get 2-1 upgrades, so you can do drops at the back. Why would you upgrade the shit out of your troops just to do a harassment drop? There is an answer, because they're key to the drop success in some circumstances. For instance, I get +2 Baneling damage, so that way my Baneling drops kill probes in 1 hit. But Marines with +2, 1 upgrades versus Marine with 0-0 upgrades, I mean, the harass is going to be effectively the same. It might be maybe a little better with the upgrades, but you always get upgrades to really strengthen your big main army. So that is why Gonzi is smart not to pull too many of his troops off in this medevac. He could have very well pulled 2 guys off into this medevac and done some damage, and may very well have still won this game. But remember, consistency between the upgrades you get and the kinds of attack that you make If you're going for crazy upgrade antics, don't be Mr. Herfty Harass. Try to do some sort of crazy pushes at the front and engage your opponent in direct army conflicts. So we see Gonzi going for the straight engagement. And look at him, he's going to clean this up. He takes virtually no damage from Zealots. Deals huge amounts of damage, kills it off, and he's going to pull back. Sure, he may have done a little bit of damage here, but this push is what needed to succeed. That push is what was geared up to succeed. And you know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm going to treat you to just one more replay. I talked almost this whole time about variations of what you could do at the start. Wow, I actually do have this replay on my computer. Yay! Losers round. Oops, losers round 1. Is it round 1? Okay, let's check 2. Select. Round 3. Select versus EG's in control. There it is. Game 1 of Shakur's Plateau. Yeah, we looked a lot at openings and the ways you can adjust the openings and stuff. In particular, we looked at slight tweaks to what we do when we get the medevacs. We looked at going for crazy aggression at the start and having that still dump into the 3 racks medevac. We looked at going for upgrades in a big ground army at the start and still going for the medevac stuff. And now what we're going to look at in this last game, we're going to do a little check out of this game between Select and In Control, talking a little bit about what you can do after the 3 racks medevac opening. So what are we going to see? We're going to see Select do this opening. Try to follow along what the purpose of Select's play should be based upon what he's going to end up building. Here are the 2 barracks going down. And here are the 2 refineries going down. This is one of the old, I think this is the oldest game that we're going to look at today. Almost all the games that I showcased are more recent than that. And we're going to see him build a factory with his first set of gas. No, he's going to build a tech lab first. And when the tech lab finishes, no, he's getting a factory. This factory is a little bit late. And then we're going to see the stim go down. And then we see these other add-ons go down. So really Select at this point, in my eyes, is gearing up for some sort of drop just because he's getting the factory before these things. Again, the factory is slightly late. These upgrades together would indicate to me that generally he could do some kind of frontal assault. But interestingly, we're going to see Select just go ahead and pop everything up into these medevacs. So we're still also seeing, yep, there it is, the engineering bay popping up right after that for the +1 attack. And what we're actually going to see Select do is power real hard. He has his 3 racks up. And because he's distracted his opponent in terms of time, yeah, I'm going to get me some infantry weapons. I'm going to keep making Vikings, and I'm going to take a fast expansion. You have a lot of room to play when you end up doing the distracting techniques of this 2 racks, or excuse me, of the 3 racks, 2 medevac harass. We're going to speed things up just to make it a little more explicit here. Dropping around. Yeah, and look. Excuse me, we have yet another deviation that you can do with this. You don't even have to have your medevacs together. You can split those suckers up. This, to me, would be a big reason why I would actually be getting Combat Shield. If I'm going to be splitting my medevacs into 2, I want to make sure that each individual pack can be dishing out a lot of hurt. And look at how much time he's buying. I mean, if you just go to In Control's cam, In Control can hardly step out of his space, despite the fact that In Control's getting the very scary +1/+1, getting Colossus. He's gotten range, which is unlike a lot of Protosses I've seen lately who keep forgetting range. Grr, 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 grr. But in this time where Select has bought himself this huge window, now he's even getting a chance to get ghosts up. I wouldn't have even minded a second engineering bay if he's just really going to embrace it. And he's even stealing up that top left. There's a lot of fun that can be had with this. So let's go ahead and open up Marky Ochoa's amazing question grabber. And take some questions from you fine folks. Clear. Apparently I've been grabbing questions all night. So now that I'm going to refresh, I'm taking some new ones. Yeah. Hopefully related to Terran versus Protoss. Some people are like, hey, I play Zerg. I'm like, well then, wait until Zerg week, which is in 2 weeks. Next week is Protoss week. There's going to be no episode on Sunday because I'll be at the North American Star League, but then we're going to kick it off with Fun Day Monday, and then do PvZ, PvT, PvP. Bam. Here's a great question by Fennec07, Dear Day 9. You talked about the importance of gas spending at the start of the games, but Terrans seem to always struggle with an excess of it later on. Could you please elaborate on timings on when to take more gases and gas in general? So always in the early game, gas is going to be your bottleneck in terms of strategies. So make sure that you have some clear decisions that are made with that. The gas buildup that occurs later in a lot of circumstances is not that big of a deal depending on your composition. Like if you're going Marine, Marauder, Viking, Ghost, in a lot of circumstances you will have some gas built up, especially if you're taking geysers at all your expansions. So the first question to ask is there anything useful to spend this gas on? A lot of times the answer is, upgrades. Cool. That, again, that's a question of right now. What can I spend the gas on right now? Then what you want to ask yourself on is there anything I could have spent this gas on earlier? A lot of times I'll be building up I'll have a gas build up, and I'll be building all the units that I want to build, and I'll be getting the upgrades I want, but then I'll say something like, if I got these upgrades started earlier though, that would have been a way that I could have started that gas. The last thing that you want to say is, well, hell, I'm just mining too much gas. I guess I just won't mine that much more gas. Those are all late game considerations. In the early game, ordering things and being very specific with what you choose is super, super importante. Oh yeah! Rioti says, Dear Day 9, how do you recommend deciding how many refineries to make when doing any gas required builds? That's going to require your testing. I didn't do any timings on the geysers beyond the first two in this series, purposely to just show the variety of styles to do. Because, again, you can say things to yourself like, I really want to get faster stim and faster combat shield. And then that might involve you doing some study and determining, I need to get 4 gases very quickly in this build. The gas timings are one of the hardest parts of StarCraft 2. And when I say hard, I do not mean it's difficult. You're going to have a nasty time with it. It's fun because that's where so much of the problem solving comes back to. Yeah, so definitely feel free to explore around those gas timings. They will be good. They will be good. So Yuri Egg says, Dear Day 9, what would it take to do this in a macro-oriented style? I actually feel like Gonzi's style is fairly macro-oriented because you're building up for a huge, giganto, scary mid-game army with lots and lots and lots and lots of upgrades. I said it. There you go. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Dum-ba-dum-bum-ba-bum by Neo F Strife. Dear Day 9, I start with Marine Marauders and I'm a new player. Which of these builds do you think is best for a new player? I actually don't think that any is necessarily better or worse. I mean, what I love about that first Select game that I showed you guys against Night End is that Select did the opening straight, did no attacks, and then when he got these 2 medevacs up, he did some harassment with them. That was it. And the medevacs were the only thing he had hotkeyed. He wasn't doing anything else with any of his other units at all. Just doing the medevac harassment pure. The important thing for new players to pick up is that they're trying to get for this 3 barracks, 1 expo, starport with a reactor. Those are all the 3 components. 3 racks, 1 expo, starport with a reactor. It's that sort of thing that is a nice little landing platform for the newer players to reach. And you get the chance to play around with what opening you want to do, but with a lot of constraint. Don't be going Banshees. Do not be going for any sort of Blue Flame Hellions. Stay on this course and play around. And as long as you're hitting that landing platform and leaving it in a sensible way, like, oh, he's going Colossus. I guess I need to get Vikings. Oh, he's making ground units. I guess I need to get more upgrades and maybe some ghosts. As long as you're doing some semblance, it's going to work out fantastically for you. It's going to be really, really, really 1%. Let's see. Let me see. Last question. Here we go from Random Guy. Dear Day 9, what kind of scouting information should you see to decide on an early push with Stim? This is something that, in terms of scouting and decision-making and attacking and all that stuff, I actually have never articulated it, or thought of this articulation until a few days ago, but a lot of poker players do the following, where They will play a session of poker, and they'll have some software that tracks all the hands that they played. And then when they're done, they'll look at all their big hands, especially their big losses, and afterwards they'll say something like, what could I have done better there? Do I agree with the way I played that out? No, I think I should have done blank. Now, the fact is that in poker, there's like a million billion different variations that can be dealt down in the cards. So it's never as obvious as, oh, I'll just do that next time. That next time might happen months later. But the fact is, if you go through this exercise with yourself every single time after a session, you just build a good intuition that you can use in completely different circumstances. So, random guys asking about the scouting information you should see to decide on an early push. You'll play a game, and you might be getting fast stim, and then you might do an attack that fails miserably. And then you rewatch that game, and you just say something like, aha, I saw the sentries and the force fields really effed me up in that attack. If I see 6 or more sentries, I'm just not going to attack at this time. And then you might play another player who doesn't really expand at all, who goes Void Race. And you play a couple more players who are 4-gating and going Blink and going Dark Templar. And maybe a week or two later, you'll encounter another player who does that same thing. But if you are, after every game, saying, what information could I have gotten to know to attack here? Then, if you do that enough after every single game, you will build a really solid intuition of when to attack, and never, ever, ever rely on broad scouting techniques that people will give you. There are not that many obvious scouting things. I mean, if you like Suicide and Overlord in and you see that he's going Dark Templar, there you go, that's obvious. But so much scouting depends on the ultra minutia of your specific build and your specific stim timing. So you can do something like poke in there and say, wow, I'm doing this weird fast stim play that I know well, and I guarantee you that I would be able to march in here and kill it off. That's one thing that's really amazing to see Huck play, is that he'll get information and do weird attacks that I'll only ever see him do just because he gets what it is he's supposed to be looking for. There are very rarely just like obvious triggers out there. I mean, there are some, but it's not like easy peasy. Just divide the number of Marauders you have by 2, and if you have fewer sentries than that, go for it. Screw maths. So now that it is currently 8:04, I'm going to wrap up the daily. I'm going to get picked up for the North American Star League basically now. Fun Day Monday, games of you not building any pylons in your base. Submit those to Monday at day9.tv. I'm out, guys. Bye.